Bravehearts, Urbanites, Coach Mad Hatters, Crimson Velvet VIPs, and Vineyard Creatrix. The list is growing, honey. The list is growing. We are gathered here today to talk about. Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things that it can bring. Oh, it's been a while. Literally and figuratively. That's not like ultimately true because one of the things that we are truly going to talk about is tantric. And we're going to talk about it in its true tertiary state. So think about the Triskelion. Think about the triangle. Think about the divine trifecta. And the more and more that I think about it and ponder it, the more and more my mission, my life's work, the reason why I am into true self expression, self discovery, individuation, the inner healing process, intrapersonal development. The reason why I'm into any of these things is so that we can get a handle on the manifestos around knowing thyself. For most human beings, whether they are physically sexually active or not, one's sexuality is still a very big, natural, intimate, proper component. Have we been overstimulated in some areas? Yeah, no. It all depends on who you're talking to, which also makes me want to give this friendly reminder that says, my road is not your road, your likes are not my likes, our journeys are uberly, uniquely separate, our divine timing is different, our maturity rates are different, our nurture, our nature is different. Our experiences, our encounters, our people, places, and things are different. Even if they cross section, even if there are mutual friends, mutual points of views, mutual emotionality, everyone is still having their own customized earthling experience. So everyone is not going to be in the same sexual lane, and yet we still judge according to this very sacred phenomenon. It's very personal. It's ultra personal. It's intra personal. And even though we like to say on the surface to each his own, we really do be judging folk for their sexual privies. Almost to the point where almost to the point where when it becomes weaponized, so um, weapons always convert victims. It's almost like it's the two sides to the same coin almost. Um, but the peculiar thing is, with myself included, I'm noticing how if there was any early childhood trauma of that nature, women of my age, especially those that are studying inside of the metaphysical realms, are understanding certain vibratory frequencies and comprehending how to transmute that. Does it completely go away? No. Will some things trigger you regardless until you leave this realm? Probably so. Because it's a psychic imprint. It's an emotional imprint. It's a earthling imprint. Whether we want to believe it or not, each time we are encountering or experiencing moment to moment, whether it's somebody with us in that moment or not, it leaves an impression. It leaves a psychic impression and it leaves an emotional impression, which mainstream calls them memories, but it leaves an impression. And even if you do want to forget it, and even if you do find yourself forgiving it, more than likely, and this might be a hard one because it was hard for me to hear, more than likely, the overall lifespan that is spent here inside of this realm, if you, if I, or should I say when I, because I've crossed that threshold now, as I was processing certain things, I realized that I had to become clear and balanced with what it is that I genuinely understood about me and how the incident itself had absolutely nothing to do with me, but it did. Trauma is tricky. And I think we are still in these spaces where, what was that? I saw it. I saw it. Is it a mosquito in here? Come on. I don't want no mosquito in here. Okay. I don't know. I just saw it though. Um, Trauma is tricky. And when it's mixed with sexual prowess or when it's weaponized and manipulatable, it can throw off the equilibrium of one's personality and emotionality. It can throw it off track. But let's talk about the one who is honestly, naturally, sensually them. It's just in them. It's in their aura. It's part of their being. We've actually vilified them. We vilify those that I like to call Venus natives. I'm getting to the point where, and it's not according to anyone's sun sign, it's according to the ratio of Venus influence that you have flowing through your energy grid, which everyone has Venus energy inside of them, which gets activated at certain times according to certain phases, especially dealing with certain people. If you're grown enough to have had or still have a sexually active life, then you know that there are some that can turn you on just by them walking up to you. And then there's some that just don't do it for you at all. It's like, hey. And if you take a moment to contemplate that, even though the chemistry may not be completely explainable, and remember, we're talking in terms of self discovery and knowing thyself. So let's just say, do I want to say? Hold on. Mm, okay. My hesitance is dwelling in the pocket of not being misconstrued. It's a very, very tender, tricky subject. And I think I'm going to have to continue to reiterate that we are in a safe space of self discovery, interpersonal development, sensual alignment, tantric. And so, whether you are sensually aroused by another, or how about this? Sensually aroused by that which is outside of you or that which is within. And I think when the arousal, regardless of stimulation, has the power to make someone shamed or feel guilty about something, then I wonder how many of us are actually taking that awareness or the ability to conceptualize or comprehend if we are, or if we're stretching it out just a little bit over the boundary of that shame or guilt to see if we can feel out the roots to that. And I've been learning, whether it's my specific case or any other woman that I've spoken to, the moment she realized that those two were separate, meaning her trauma, even if that trauma activated her sensuality way earlier than she would have liked it. Because, see, that's the part we're not talking about. The part we're not talking about is that sexuality is an activation. Now, usually, if it's going to be part of your natural cycle, it is timed in the whole thing that they like to call adolescence and the whole puberty thing and all of that other kind of stuff. So if it's naturally activated, meaning it activates in the timeline that is conventionally posted versus when it's prematurely activated. But even if it's prematurely activated, and let's just say prematurely activated at 6 years old, and because we love to villainize anybody's sexuality, if it's different from the, I was getting ready to do it. I was getting ready to do it. If it's outside the religious limits, even though I have to say, I've been meeting some pretty cool religious folks who are not all bound up and not all, yeah, persnickety about their sexuality, whether they married or not. But but what the jewel that I have found and that has been teaching me this enormous amount of scholarship is the women, and you know what, let me say men too. Let me say the women and the men where it has been activated. Because, see, there are these nuances, these intricate details where we still missing the point on you needing to build the context on why this is the way that it is, especially if we're having a problem with it, being challenged by it, or traumatized by it. If we even going to sit down and gather the details around it. They have this thing where they say hurt people. And then thanks to Black Love, shout out to Black Love Inc. I've noticed that they have this thing where they say heal people, heal people. Most often, everyone is still speaking in socially engineered context because there are certain sexual activations of other cultures that is not perceived the way that the westernized culture is toggling or being completely pressed by or twined up about it. There are some colonies, and I'm just using that word even though I really don't like it, but I can't find another word that really pops the way I need it to. So there are certain colonies that nobody wears clothes. There are certain tribes where nobody wears clothes. So even even the notions that seeing the naked body is somehow something one should be ashamed of or cringe or figure like it's outlandish or uncivilized because I see or you see or we all see somebody's naked ass or you see bare breast or you see whatever it is you see that's on this physical flesh, and how it is that it always needs to be covered up or else some other something evil is lurking. When we all got a body, we all have flesh. Mhm. And we all came in this world with no clothes. We were born naked. If that means nothing to anybody. So, studying tantric, especially in terms of my self-discovery, is forcing me into this zone where I was already going. Let me say that. I was already going. My research and my development around sexology, especially as an inner healing sport, has taken me into some very peculiar places, meeting some fascinating people and going down some outlandish ass rabbit holes. And I find the need for a different kind of frequency when it comes to the safe spaces people may be provided when it's time for them to authentically express themselves, whether they are speaking about the trauma or the treasure, which is, in my opinion, is the sides of the same, is two different sides of the same coin. Do I believe that anyone who has been victimized through the weaponization of sex, do I believe that they ought not have their safe space either? Nah, not at all. That's exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the safe spaces without them honestly officially being labeled victim. If that's what they feel they want to label themselves, that's fine. But for anybody outside of them to label that and begin to treat them as if they need to coddle them, now if that's what the victim needs, let me know. I'm doing it. If that's what the person needs, then yes, by all means, because remember, we're talking about self-discovery and inner healing, which usually comes through the brink of shedding the shame and the blame from it. And it might be sounding like I am attempting to allow or imply that the perpetrator should be off the hook. No. But then it's like, are we willing to dig into how that person's whatever got activated? I saw this meme on Facebook that says, we take pretty pictures while we ignore the ugly, or something like that. Like, our pictures on Facebook or whatever it is we posted on social media, it depicts and it gives the idea that we're all around here, all well put together, and we're all working it out. And I guess I'm wondering when we're going to get to the space to say that the majority of us are still fucked up, generationally fucked up. And it really doesn't matter what culture or denomination you identify as. There are certain things with all of these tentacles that's been running amok, and nobody's talking about the hypersexual energy that has come from a certain people being bred like animals. Well, we are animals, but like chattel. And what that energy does when it's continuously perpetuating and now trying to be inside of this civilized motif, and folks are still running around here not understanding this energy, this divine sacred energy that has been activated, and now it's hyper sensitive and nobody really knows what to do with it because it's still in this thing that says, I'm going to shame you, I'm going to blame you, I'm going to, like, yeah, we're going to dagger it all. And we are all still 6 degrees separated or close to this thing. So, yes, you're going to find it. I'm going to find it. It's everywhere. That's the only way we repopulate the earth. And it is very powerful and very potent. And usually we tap into it way earlier than we should. It's just my opinion. Because it's kind of my on the fence opinion. Because I'm not as rigid about the rules and regulations around sexuality as folks would probably think that I am. And that really comes from me just being in a space of not wanting to talk about it. But I still am finding out that that piece of trauma is part of my life's work. And not because I'm trying to serve as anyone's therapist or counselor. I am a writer, for Pete's sake. I'm a journaler. I find myself in coaching capacities just because I like to research stuff and I like to analyze and observe people and human behavior, good, bad, or urban ugly. I do not get caught up in the snares of judging stuff when I know people are people and this third dimension never promised anybody anything. It's got anything anybody ever wants and more. And sometimes it backfires, and sometimes it's with ill will. And yeah, it's a smorgasbord of happenstances going on out here. And sometimes you can find yourself caught up in the sexual crossfires, and next thing you know, something is activated in you, and now you're an adult and you don't know what to do with it, and you're hiding and you're shameful, and you just have no clue about what the fuck to do. And most things that are out there that will claim to help you want to somehow fix you. When the tender dilemma that is now coming across my radar is asking me, especially if I'm going to put it into a cosmic context, who's to say that that premature activation was not going to become the banner by which your life's work is based upon? And not for you to go blazing through the streets determining fault or fortune or who was the victim or the villain, versus if this realm is full of everything that it happening or it coming across one's path or it activating one's sensibilities at a very early age. And seeing is that that doesn't happen to everybody. Like, that's not an earthling inevitability that your sexuality gets activated way before time. So it's really, in my opinion, highly unique towards those that do. Because we are hyper socialized and it runs the gamut. The spectrum is incredible between what is so called righteous and wretched, which is still another tentacle that we have to dig into when we say, according to who? Like, whose storyline or whose narrative are we going by when we want to label something righteous or wretched, or good or bad, or evil, or high and low, which I'm still in a dilemma about. I'm still in a dilemma about. High is masculine, low is feminine. So anytime, and you need, I always say it, you need both currencies to animate this body. So how is it that both currency is needed? This quote unquote positive and negative charge is needed for the avatar to keep it moving. And yet we still talk in terms, well, especially when we're talking about human interaction, we still speak in terms of satisfied and dissatisfied when we're talking about negative and positive charges of the energies that flow in every single earthling in order for the earthling to be the earthling. You need them both. You have light and dark charge within you. Now, the whole control your dark and manage it, and it's an equilibrium. And I think the all of the energy that is surrounded around the sacral chakra, that is a lower chakra, that is a weighty, dense chakra, which should let everybody know that rolling around and trying to hump everybody, you activating a very serious energy chamber. And then we wonder why everything is so fucking wacky. We missed the memo that says, and I'm not claiming this whole abstinence, and I'm not even claiming the whole wait till you marry shit. I am more so trying to direct the attention to it being more of a magical portal. And yes, I'm about to get whimsical in this bitch because I think that's another reason why some of this shit is lopsided, because we seem to be wanting to pull the magic from the logic. We want to be pulling the intuitive factors away from, yeah, we want to do this to the left and the right brain hemisphere versus understanding that it is one unit. And so it operates as one unit. It's always going to operate as one unit. You can't have one without the other. You cannot separate one from the other. So we actually have women and men who would like to sexually express themselves, but not with the scrutiny that this lying ass society would have. And how we so surprised at stuff. We still surprised at P Valley. We still surprised when this is people's the depiction of so many people's lives. We take on the motif of righteous indignities, figuring that one human can rightfully exist while another should shamefully exist. And quite honestly, anybody's sexuality is their business. I don't even know why this is part of public conversation. I really don't. Whoever one is being intimate with is one's business, and yet we talk about it around a dinner table without respect, without the genuine interest in getting to know someone so that you could probably better understand what it is that you may or may not be dealing with. So, I'm not sure if I may mention before, but I am a member of the online platform called Coffee Talk, which is a creation through the genius named Jessica Holter, who is the founder of Punani Poets. I have been in that vibe and frequency for a while, mainly because of some of the content that I was writing, and found that I needed to gain the permissions from myself for myself to tap into certain areas and speak freely about some of the fantasies that were dancing around in my head, let alone the courage and the tenacity to share such stories, seeing as that I usually am in a more, the word limited is coming to mind, but let me see if I can find another word to describe me and the way that I express myself sexually. Even recording this, I'm still in the back of my mind wondering, like, are you seriously going to post this? Are you seriously going to post this and allow the channels to open so that the contemplations and dialogues can begin? But see, I've always been a spark. I've always been a provocateur. I've always been that way. So why not? Why not? I think religion and sex are the well, I was going to say politics, but I don't really understand politics at all. Me and my dad was just having this conversation yesterday, and he really is in it. So just to see him light up and get all passionate about it, it drew me in, and I wanted to learn. I wanted to understand what he understood. I think the same thing can go if we allow folks the safe space to speak their piece and the truth about their timelines, as well as the truth about their desires without us throwing our judgment on it, especially if we are not going to be willing to tap into that and really truly find out what it's about. And looking at someone's sexual activations through a religious lens is going to get it hammed up every time. It's going to get it hammed up every time because it still is a natural human phenomenon. So, Coffee Talk has these interest groups, and so most of those that are on Coffee Talk are entrepreneurs and solopreneurs and creatrix, which is another word for the creative folks who are into sexual healing, who really pride their research and development into digging deep so that some of this transformational energy can emerge up the chakra system, like just continue, just spill over in confidence and encouragement and affirmation and affection. And regardless if you run into a wildling or you run into an ultra conservative, just know they have sexual vibrancy. They have it. Now, whatever thoughts or fears or whatever it is that they have that will stuff it down and lock it into a chamber and make it go away, that's human to human. So, what made me click and record is that I'm sitting here looking at a interview with a guy that's called the Yoni Whisperer. I don't know if I'm gonna link it in the description or not. I might because, like I said, I down a rabbit hole is how I found him. And on the surface, you would think that he was just some erotica dude who good at what he do. That interview, like I said, the interview prompted me to hit record. That interview and hearing him speak about where he come from, and his is not based in trauma. Let's talk about that. Everything is not based in trauma or imbalance or out of or what is it in alignment, out of alignment, in alignment. All of it is not. Some folks are naturally healthily, healthily, therapeutically imbalanced with their sexuality. And when that happens, then that means that there no shame, blame, guilt, and all that other kind of stuff. It can't even get in. It's impenetrable. And I'm gonna say this because I would be remiss if I didn't. There is a lot of trauma. There is a lot of trauma around this incredibly powerful aspect of the earthling life. And it's not even, yeah, the earthling life, because earthlings can be dogs, cats, rabbits, yeah, yeah, the whatever animals out here fucking. Now, I think the differentiation is the animals that do it for pleasure or do it for procreation or the balance of both. The expression, the acceptance, the affirmations around it and involved in it. 6 degrees separated or close. Person, place, or thing. I'm gonna leave it here now. I think, because I just drew a blank. I did want to mention that though, and I think I'm going to. link the Yoni Whisper. No, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna link the interview, and you could do your own research and find out more about him, because something tells me that whoever finds themselves in front of this video, if in fact, like I say all the time, if you're taking it seriously and you got your notebook in front of you, when you sit in front of me, man, get your notebook, get your journal, get your pencils, papers, highlighters. Do yourself a favor, because I'm not here to entertain you. Just telling my dad this the other day. I am not as serious, because I'm learning to put a little play and pleasure in certain things. So I'm not as serious as I was, and I'm grateful for that flexibility. I'm grateful for the people who come into my life to say, "TC, loosen up a little bit. Let's go dancing or whatever. Like whatever happens." When I cross paths with those that I am meant to cross paths with, because I am a very dense, very serious. I'm a Saturnine being. I am a Saturnine being, and I'm now okay with that. I am not your fluffy, whimsical pixie, even though some people think that I am. They just think that I'm more on the darker version, because I still know how to laugh and have jokes. You know, I know how to make funny. I know how to make funny, but certain things, especially knowing thyself, when it comes to self discovery, when it comes to the relationship with self, I do get real serious when I come across people who speak more about the problems of other people and be real quiet when it comes talking about theirs. They can sit for hours talking about everybody else's problems, and when it comes to when the circle hit them, they are mute. That bothers me. It ruffles my feathers, because, like I say, I'm one for inner healing. I'm one for inner healing, and so if all of the questions can be directed outward and none of the questions be directed inward, we got a lot of fucking work to do. And I think a lot of it is going to come through releasing the reins of all of this pompousness, like all of this persnickety, uptight pompousness, especially around sex. We still judging those that are single and want to be free, just like we judging those who are married and hemmed up, and so they tapping into the other ones who are free. We're just judging all of it without having the intricate details so that we can understand better. Isn't that the whole fucking point? Isn't the whole point is to relate? Aren't we having relationships? Maybe I got it fucked up. Do I have it fucked up? I might have it fucked up. I might. And I'll go check myself. And I'll make sure I, call into those that I know will check me. They don't have a problem with it. They ain't all passive aggressive with it. They will speak to me in real time. So maybe I will do a self check. Maybe I'll do a circle check, just to, I'll circle, and maybe I'll circle back with what my findings are. And I might even make it an ongoing series, because I know that I am moving towards my silent retreat. And I know my manifestos are all around those that are inside of the sexology realm, who are banner wavers of intrapersonal development, inner healing, sexual healing, tantric, sexual meditation. Should we call it intimate meditation? Maybe it's the word. Maybe the word sexist was because it's fully charged. It's been charged for generations. Talk about potency, right? Nah, I ain't hiding from it. I'm not going to hide from it. Who should? Like, for real. I wonder where the world would be if everyone owned up to who they truly want to be. I wonder. I wonder. I wonder. I wonder. I wonder. Huh. So, yeah, I'm going to link the interview, because I think you should hear it from him. I'm going to keep digging and traveling down this rabbit hole, and I will circle back just to post what I find, just for the giggles of it all. Help lighten up my space, and give me the confirmations and the affirmations that I think I require. I might not really require them. Maybe I just want them to uh, tell me that I am navigating properly into these very, very tender spaces. Yeah. So, until next time, I do wish you well.